Well, the good news is summer has officially started here in southern England. Torrential wind and rain. I need to go and pick Jasper up from preschool now, so I'm thinking it's time for another EV News Roundup. So what's been going on over the last week or so? Well, Geely, the owners of the London taxi company, have raised $400 million by doing a green bond sale. They're going to be putting this money towards electrifying their taxi fleet, which is brilliant news because taxis are terrible polluters in the centre of London, and that's particularly good news for them because on the 1st of January 2018, Transport for London is mandating that all taxis need to be zero emissions capable. So they're going to be releasing a range extended taxi in late 2017. And on the bus front, BYD is celebrating its 10,000th, so that's fantastic news. I had no idea they'd actually made that many buses, so brilliant. Good job, BYD. Autocar's Steve Cropley has done a 350 mile round trip to a meeting in his 30 kilowatt hour Leaf, and by and large had a positive experience. The quick chargers worked for him. Another thing he mentioned was that he managed to significantly increase the range by driving behind big trucks, giving him a sort of aero shield. In my experience, that actually does make a big difference, a very big difference. But I think that electric cars should probably aim to be able to complete long journeys without having to tailgate trucks. He cites the comfort of the seats as being one reason why he got there in fairly relaxed fashion. Personally, I think the fact that you have to stop relatively regularly to recharge your car makes driving an electric car long distances significantly more relaxing, because it means you get out, you stretch your legs every couple of hours at least, and the end result is you get to your destination feeling much more refreshed. You've not had to hold yourself for the loo or anything like that. So yeah, that's what I think is going on with that one. CCS installations are starting to catch up the number of CHAdeMO installations in Europe. The country with the most CCS installations is, of course, the UK. Thank you, Ecotricity, good job. Also worth noting, almost all the CCS installations are dual chargers of one sort or another, either dual chargers with CHAdeMO or dual chargers with three-phase Type 2 sockets. That seems to be the solution to the charger wars, is they just put lots of plugs on the things. Now, if they could just make them a wincy bit more reliable. The Peugeot group is dumping CHAdeMO in favour of CCS. Well, as they only really had one iMEV based electric car that I know of anyway, before then, it's not really a massive change for them, and it probably does make sense as CCS is supposed to be the standard in Europe, although admittedly it still plays second fiddle to CHAdeMO. The US Department for Energy has been proving its worth yet again with a fantastic piece of analysis that has declared that EV sales go up as battery prices come down. Yeah guys, I could have told you that. More or less anyone could tell you that. But another bit of interesting news on the EV sales front is apparently in 10 years' time, EVs are expected to make up 50% of all new car sales. Well, that would be amazing. That's according to the Argonne National Laboratory. No idea who they are. But I like their assessment, so hey, it's all good. VW is planning a multi-billion euro battery factory of its own, which, based on that cost, would probably rival the size of the Gigafactory. One thing I personally think, the availability of large volumes of batteries, and I do mean properly large volumes of batteries, is one of the massive competitive advantages that Tesla has over something like the GM Bolt. I just don't see how they can get their hands on enough batteries to build 500,000 of those cars. If the demand is there, it's going to take them 3 years, or at least 2 years, to build the battery supply necessary to fulfill that many orders. And I think that's where Tesla really is massively ahead of the other auto manufacturers. So perhaps VW has spotted that and is looking to make it move. And sticking with copying Tesla, Faraday Future is looking for a second site in California. Now, Faraday Future is a kind of funny company. I mean, they talk about a Tesla wannabe. Which is fine, I have no problem with that. I just think it'd be nice to actually see them sell a car. Presumably that's somewhere in their business plan. And as I mentioned yesterday when we were in London, Tesla have raised $1.7 billion through a new stock sale. So that's awesome, because they've upped their production plans. That's the excuse they've got. They've got so many reserves and orders that they need to build a much bigger production line so that they can produce 500,000 cars in 2018 instead of waiting all the way till 2020. And also, apparently, a Chinese Tesla factory is starting to make sense. And this is based on the fact that the Chinese are second only to the US in Model 3 reservations. Autopilot has now driven more than 100 million miles. That is a huge amount of autonomous driving data. And it's that sort of data which will enable Tesla to produce a better autonomous driving system than anyone else on the planet, I strongly believe, because they have a massive training data set that they can use to build the AI software necessary to actually control the cars reliably using a relatively simplistic suite of sensors compared to, say, the Google car with its fancy LiDAR spinning thing on top, which I do hope does not become the future of cars, because it looks awful and not particularly aerodynamic either, I might add. And apparently Spain loves Tesla. I like Tesla. Yeah. So Spain is now officially vying for the European Tesla factory. It seems to me that in a few years' time there could be Tesla factories everywhere. Sounds good to me, especially if it brings down the price of their cars. Always nice. And brings down the delivery time would be good too. Excellent. Well, I think that just about wraps up the EV news for the last week or so, or at least the bits that stood out to me. I hope you've all enjoyed today's video and found it informative. If you have, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next installment of my daily vlog. Bye!